Welcome to Count With Me. I'm Robin. We're counting the Omer together, and we are on the 45th day of the Omer. It's so easy to lose count, and that's a lesson in and of itself. We are taught to number our days, according to the book of Psalm. Teach us to number our days, that we may apply our hearts to wisdom. We need to number our days. In other words, we need to order our days too. We need to be planning and knowing that we're walking in the divine will. The 45th day means we are almost to the end. We are looking at the letters of the Shema, of the first two lines of the Shema, and taking a letter out of our gift bag each day. So let me think for a minute, make sure I have the right day. Yes, I do. I know I am counting every day. We are meeting together by Zoom. Our family is meeting together, and we are saying the blessings, and we are counting the days, and we have been very faithful to do this every night, right through last night, which was the 45th. So this tendency to forget what day I'm on is just always a lesson to me. But in any case, I just want to obsess a little to make sure that we're on the right day, because that's my nature. So what letter are we on today? We are on the letter Shin. The letter Shin in Yisrael. Now, this letter, if there's a dot above it over here, it's pronounced with a sh sound. And if the dot is over here, it's pronounced with a s sound. So our English, if it's over here, would be sh, sh, and over here without the h, s. The letter is Shin. If we were to transliterate that, it would be S-H-I-N, like a shin. Doesn't mean that, but that's what it would look like if you were to write it out in English letters. And then the sin would be S-I-N, not sin. It's not the Hebrew word for sin, but that's what it looks like if you write it out in English. This letter has a numerical value of 300. And is composed, as you can see, of a vav, 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 6, 6, 6. And that's an interesting thought. I've often wondered if the number of a man that's referred, the reference is in Revelation, if that number is something to do with a Shin. But that's not our lesson today. Our lesson today is in the word Yisrael. And as you can see that in this letter for Israel, in this word for Israel, if we have a dot, it would be over here because it's s sound. The name of God is in Israel. This is the second word in the Shema, Shema Yisrael. As you can see, we're very close to the end of our count. We just have a few more days, and we will be at our destination. The journey has been interesting. It's always good for me to consider a journey, because I have a tendency to be one of those kinds of people who makes a goal and wants to get there. And I forget about the enjoyment of the process and the journey. When I was running the other night, I reminded myself it's not about how far I run. It is to me, partly, but it's each individual step along that run that gets me to the goal of the distance. No matter how many miles I run, it all starts with the journey of one step, as the old proverb goes, and it's so true in that journey of one step that started, oh my goodness, 39 years ago when I started running. By now I have run I know at least hundreds of miles and perhaps thousands of miles. but it all started years and years and years ago. And each run that I take is the same really as the very first one, 39 years ago. It's just one step, one foot in front of the other. Well, Yisrael, was on a journey. And when he started on the journey, his name was Yaakov. It was Jacob. And today I want to give a reference in the scripture to Genesis, Bereshit, the 32nd chapter and the 29th verse. And the angel, Yaakov had been wrestling with an angel. This story picks up, this verse picks up in the story where he had sent his family over the ford of the Yavok. In English, I guess we would call it the Jabbok, which is, in Hebrew there's no J, so Yavok. He sent his family. They all crossed over the Yavok, and he was left alone. And that night he wrestled with an angel. The sages tell us, and this comes down from Rashi, that the angel with which he wrestled was the guardian angel of Esau, and you'll remember that that was his twin brother. He had left his brother and his family 34 years prior to this, and his brother was going to kill him because his brother accused him of having stolen the blessing that belonged to Esau, which he didn't steal it. Esau freely gave it over to him, and Yaakov went with the blessing and went to sojourn away from his family. Now he is about to meet Esau because Esau is coming for him with an army, and Yaakov, Jacob, knows that Esau is set on killing him. So Yaakov, Jacob, sends his family on ahead of him, and he gives them instructions. He sends out in a couple of camps so that if the first camp is destroyed, there'll still be another camp. He's making preparations for what might happen. And then the scripture very specifically tells us that he was left alone. And we know that he wrestled with this angel. And how do we know that it was... How do we know that this was the guardian angel of Esau? Because I know some of you are going to say, huh? And you're still probably thinking about that. But let me give you a scriptural reference that gives us this implication. This is found a little bit later in chapter 33, verse 10. Inasmuch... Well, let me read the whole verse. But Yaakov said, this is to Esau, when he meets up with Esau, "No, I beg of you, if I have now found favor in your eyes, then accept my tribute from me, inasmuch as I have seen your face, which is like the face of a divine being, and you were appeased by me." Now, go back now to the 32nd chapter. This is where the wrestling in the night occurs, and it's a powerful, powerful story and a powerful lesson for us. Jacob wrestled all night with this divine being that there's much commentary discussing what the being was, who the being was. I go with this opinion because of this scripture that seems to corroborate the opinion that I just referred to in 33. But he wrestles with this being which injures him in his hip and makes him walk with a limp. And this fact that he wrestled all night alone is an important lesson for us. There are situations oftentimes in our own lives where we have to wrestle alone in prayer, and the battle is won there before we actually encounter the incident in the natural realm. So in the supernatural realm, God brings down, and it's prophetic. It gives us an idea of what is happening, and by prophetic I do not mean that we don't know what the situation is or that it's to come. It can mean that, but it can also be a situation that of which we are well aware, and God gives us the victory first in prayer. It's so easy for us to go forward and not go forward bathed in the power of prayer. The scripture verse for today, in fact, is verse 29. He said, now this is the angel that Jacob wrestled with. This is the being. And let me go up, in fact, a couple of verses. Let's go up to verse 25. Jacob was left alone, and a man wrestled with him until the break of dawn. There is a great deal prophetically just in that very sentence of Scripture. Jacob, Yaakov, represents Israel, because we're going to see that his name becomes Israel, and he was left alone, and a man wrestled with him until the break of dawn. This man, Esau, this guardian angel of Esau represents Edom, becomes Rome, and it's the fourth kingdom of the four kingdoms that subjugate Israel through history. And until this fourth kingdom is conquered, the Messianic, this is part of the process of bringing the Messiah, but the Messiah comes on the heels of, and we'll talk about that in a later lesson, but on the heels of this, the end of this kingdom of dominion, of this kingdom of Rome, or Romi is referred to in the Talmud. Jacob was left alone, and a man wrestled with him until the break of dawn. We are in the fourth kingdom, we are in the dominion of Rome, and we are in the darkness of the last night, the last part of the night of this subjugation of this kingdom of Rome. And we've heard the expression, it's darkest before dawn. Well, it was darkest before dawn with Jacob, it becomes Israel. Because what happens to him just before this angel releases him, when he perceived that he could not overcome him, he struck the socket of his hip. When Esau, or Edom, Rome, recognized that he could not overcome Israel, the man of God, then this being strikes Jacob, Israel, to become Israel, in the socket of his hip. So Jacob's hip socket was dislocated as he wrestled with him. And then Jacob said, let me go, for dawn has broken. And he said, the angel said, no, I'm so sorry, mixed up. After the hip was dislocated, then the angel said, let me go, for dawn has broken. Oh, that's so interesting, isn't it? The dawn was coming, and Esau, this being, had to leave. It had marching orders from the heavenly court, and the marching orders ended at dawn, apparently. And he said, Jacob said, I will not let you go unless you bless me. He said to him, what is your name? That's what the angel said to Jacob, and Jacob replied, Yaakov, Jacob. This divine being then said, no longer will it be said that your name is Yaakov, but Yisrael. Now here's the reason, for you have striven with the divine and with man, and have overcome. Now there's another implication, that this being was a divine being and a man, the guardian angel of Esau. Here we have the reference to the Shin, and we're studying the Shin today, as it appears in Yisrael. And this striving means that he has become a prince. Let me read that over here, if I can. Well, in one of the translations, it had to do with the word prince, and we see that when we put the Shin with yesterday's letter, the Resh, Sar, we have prince. And those are the two letters in Yisrael. It's interesting that we have the sacred name of God within Yisrael, because we've studied the Aleph, and we know that that's a reference to the four-letter sacred name of God. And then today we have the Shin. The Shin is helping us to focus in today on the fact that he becomes a prince. Jacob becomes a prince. He had gone through 14 years initially away from Esau and his family, and then he was 20 years in the house of Laban, where he served 14 years to win Rachel, and now at 34 years away from his family, he has gone through great duress, gone through great hardship, and God is going to change his name. Now, he doesn't change his name right here. He changes his name later over in chapter 35 is where the name is actually changed. But over in chapter 32, where we just read, we know that his name is going to be changed, because the name is the nature. In fact, I'm thinking of the great hymn that we have sung for years. We don't sing it so much anymore. I'm sorry that the hymns are not sung more often, but many, many verses, and the title of it is Wrestling Jacob. And it's the story of Jacob set to music. And Yaakov wrestled, and he became a prince, a Sar. One more note about this name, Sar. If we take the Resh from yesterday, let me show you what it looks like in case you don't remember. The Resh looks like this. And remember, it means head, which is appropriate for prince, isn't it? And the Shin, and then we take tomorrow's letter, the Yod, we have Sarai. And remember, Sarai was a princess. So today's the 45th day. The letter is the Shin, and we are thinking about kingdoms. And this kingdom of Yisrael is the one that Scripture tells us prevails. And there's a great wrestling that is going on in the kingdoms of this world, the kingdoms of darkness against the kingdom of light. And perhaps personally you have a wrestling that is going on. But if you go in prayer and go before the King, go before God, you can win that battle in prayer before you have to face that battle in the natural realm. Thank you for counting with me on this 45th day.